What is up, guys? So in today's video, I wanted to talk about staying lean and maintaining leanness year round. A lot of you guys seem to like my last video on how I finally got lean, but today I wanted to talk about the next logical step, which is maintaining that leanness. I think a big fear of mine when I first started to lose weight was that I would rebound. And a matter of fact, I did rebound several times over. I would lose weight, drop weight, and then I would have cravings. I would want to eat the bad food again, and ultimately I would fall into that trap again and I would bounce right back to where I started at. And it was this really exhausting problem because you put in a lot of work, you go through all the work to get leaner, and then you end up giving into your cravings and you do what's called a yo-yo diet. And so think of a yo-yo that goes back and forth. On one end, you have the leanness when you're cutting, and then you binge eat and you go all the way back to where you started. And it's very mentally draining. So if you've ever tried cutting, you know that it's pretty hard to stick to a diet initially if you don't know what you're doing or if you don't know the proper principles. And so that's why most diets fail actually within the first 2 to 3 weeks. But in today's video, I'm gonna tell you exactly how not only I got lean, but more importantly, how I maintain that leanness year round. Because the really good news about being lean is it's much easier to stay lean once you are lean than it is to actually get lean. Because when you get lean, you have to be in a calorie deficit. And so you lose some energy, you have to really maintain the muscle. But once you are lean, maintaining that leanness is very, very simple. And I'll explain exactly how to do that in today's video. So stick around. Just so you guys know, this is what I used to look like. You can see I had a pretty, I would say, average to below average physique, not much going on, a pretty good amount of body fat, pretty low muscle mass, and I would say just like a very normal, out of shape physique. And so the reason I like to show everybody this is because I really want you to understand that I am just a normal guy. I did not come out looking insane, shredded, 8-pack abs. Actually, for most of my life, I've been overweight. And so if you're watching this video and you're someone who's like, hey, I can kind of relate to that, or maybe you've thought that fitness or getting into shape isn't for you because you don't have the greatest genetics, well, just know that I am a very firm believer that literally anyone can do it. And so, through the proper principles of fitness, I was able to completely transform my body. You can see that reduce my body fat percentage pretty significantly, was able to add quite a bit of muscle mass, did it all naturally, and really it was just through a process of learning the right principles. And so if I can do it, you definitely can too. And I'll explain how to do it right now. And so here's the overview. Staying lean is actually really simple. Once we get lean, like I said earlier, getting lean is the more difficult part of it. Staying lean is actually pretty simple. It really just requires that you just maintain your current physique. And I'll explain how to do that. So I would say the easiest way to do it without overthinking is first step is the actual cut. So you want to get to about 15% body fat. This is pretty optimal range. It's lean and aesthetic. You'll look good. You'll have mild ab definition. You can take your shirt off and feel pretty good about it, but you're still able to add muscle and eat less restrictive. It's not like you're crazy contest lean. You'll still be in a pretty anabolic window, just meaning that your body is still has adequate body fat percentage on it to be able to build and use resources to grow your muscles. So the second thing that we want to do is once we're at 15% body fat, really maintaining that is easy. And I would say the easiest way to maintain a lean aesthetic body fat at 15% is just eat clean, like an animal-based diet. And I would say this is pretty much the key to it. A lot of rebounding happens because after a diet, people will go back to the processed food. So, like, you'll do really good on your diet, you'll eat clean, you'll lose the weight, and then, you'll hit this random date. You're like, oh, August 15th. So now I'm finished with my diet. I can go back to the foods that I was eating before. And then people will eat all the junk, they'll eat all the processed foods, and well, lo and behold, you just gain all the weight back. So, the best way to stay lean year round is just eat clean animal-based foods. And for me personally, as long as I'm eating whole animal-based foods, I don't really care how much I eat. I just find that my hunger signaling is better. And what I mean by that is when you eat a lot of processed foods and junk food, your hunger signaling gets all out of whack. You can eat like 2,000 calories really easily if it's processed food, and honestly a few hours later still, be hungry. But when you're eating like good whole animal-based foods, your hunger signaling is pretty good. Like your body feels full for longer. You don't have like crazy cravings. And so for me, if I'm just trying to maintain my leanness, I don't really care how much I'm eating if it's clean food. And so you might be asking at this point, well, what should I eat then? Well, animal meat is primarily like what my diet is focused around, especially like good red meat, steak, ground beef, bison, things of that nature. It's super high in micronutrients and tons of protein, and you'll get lots of healthy fat from it too. For my carb sources, I pretty much just do fruit and honey. It's a great combination. Like for breakfast, I'll just have a bowl of fruit, I'll put some honey on top of it, and then I'll have like a little bit of red meat with that too. And then if you're not lactose intolerant, I would say dairy is a great option as well. Whole milk, cheese, all that stuff is great. And that's pretty much it. I know that that seems simple, but now I'm actually going to go through like the step-by-step plan for you guys. Hey, and just real quick, guys, I know that this video is only about 11 or 12 minutes long, but if you are looking to get a more comprehensive approach, I actually do have a course in the description down below. It literally has everything I know about fitness. It's several hours long, so if you're interested in that, go check it out. Anyways, let's get back to the video. And so when we're looking at the step-by-step plan, I have it broken down into three different sections. So there's going to be the weightlifting, there's going to be the diet, and then there's going to be the routine. And so the first thing that we'll dive into now is the weightlifting aspect of it. And so when it comes to weightlifting, we don't need to go crazy with it. I think that a lot of people, if you're new to the gym, can get intimidated because you might think that weightlifting is going to be this like super hardcore, 7 times a week, 2 times a day, 3 hours a session. Like, no, that's insane, and you don't need that. Really, all you need is 3 times a week for about 30 minutes. If you do this, if you go 3 times a week and lift weights for about 30 minutes, you're gonna pretty much make all the gains that you need to make for an aesthetic physique. And it's really important because I see a lot of guys kind of try to finagle their way around out of weightlifting when they're trying to get a good physique, but it's just not really going to work because muscles are crucial for an aesthetic physique. You can be lean and shredded, but if you're really just skin and bones, it's still not going to look super aesthetic. We need to have at least a little bit of muscle mass on there. And I would say that the aesthetic muscles that we want to target are going to be things like the shoulders, the lats, the chest, really things that are just going to emphasize that V taper. That's what we want. We want your shoulders to be here and then your waist to be here. So you have broad shoulders and narrow waist. That's really the key to aesthetics. So the shoulders obviously are really going to do a lot of heavy lifting in that, and I would recommend really prioritizing like the mid delts, like the lateral delts. Doing things like lateral raises are really going to help grow your shoulders, and that'll really help with the V taper too. Lats will emphasize kind of the flare of the V, and then chest is obviously going to make you look pretty aesthetic too. So those are kind of the muscles that I would heavily prioritize too when you're training for aesthetics. So the next thing that we're going to talk about is the diet, which is equally, if not more important. Again, like I said earlier, we're just going to focus on just a clean diet. I think that intuitive eating is really just an easier, more accessible way for most people. You can track calories if you want. It maybe if it's your first time ever dieting, I would recommend tracking calories just so you have an understanding of how it all works. But for the average person who doesn't want to track, who just wants to get lean and look good, I think that just cleaning up the diet and getting rid of the processed foods is going to do the heavy lifting for you here. And so, just a few examples. I eat a ton of ground beef. I eat a ton of eggs. I eat a ton of honey and fruit and like the other stuff that we talked about earlier, some dairy, some cheese, some steak, just all that good stuff. But a good general rule of thumb to ask yourself when you're about to eat something is, did your ancestors eat it? Like all the stuff that you're going to eat here, like eggs, fruit, red meat, honey, that kind of stuff. Human beings have been eating that for a long time. They haven't been eating things like super processed fast food or sugars. That stuff is really hard on your body because your body just doesn't know what to do with a lot of that stuff. It's not really nutritionally additive to your diet. So I think, hey, asking yourself like, did my ancestors eat this is a pretty good solid way to determine whether or not something's going to be good for you. And then the last part that we're going to talk about is just the routine. Routine is really important, and you might call this part consistency, you might call it discipline, whatever you want to call it. This is what's going to allow you to do the healthy stuff for a long enough period of time to actually see the changes. I wish that fitness and getting a good body was an overnight process, that would be awesome. But just like anything that's actually worthwhile, it takes time and it takes discipline. And so we need to feed the good habits because human beings are just creatures of habit. We do the things that we're familiar with. So if you can actually incorporate the good habits into your daily life for long enough to actually build it into an automatic routine, then it's going to become significantly easier as time goes on, which is really good news if you're just getting started. Just know that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and this does get easier as you progress. And the other part too is if you do mess up, which inevitably you will, which inevitably I will, which inevitably everybody will, because that's just part of the process. That's okay. You can just get back to it the next day. Don't, I used to do this thing where I'd really like be hard on myself if I mess up. I'd really be in my head about it. And I'm like, oh man, I can't believe I ate that. That is not the way because it's not going to change anything, number one. And number two, it's just going to stress you out and make this process less fun than it could be. Like getting in shape, getting a good body can actually be a really fun thing to do. So if you mess up, that's okay. Just be like, oh, okay, I'm just going to get back to it the next day. That's how you feed the good habits. And you can still ultimately enjoy life too. Don't be like the obsessive bodybuilder who's bringing your meal prep out to dinner with friends because you're so afraid of eating out every once in a while. Just use your faculties of reason to know what decisions to make. But as long as you are generally employing the 80/20 rule, doing the good stuff 80% of time, you're going to be just fine. But anyways, I hope that this video was helpful. I hope that you guys liked it. Be sure to leave a like, be sure to subscribe. Also, leave a comment too, because I'm really trying to grow this channel and I really want to hear what you guys would like to see from me next. Leave a comment with what you would like to see from me in the next video, and I'll reply to it and then make that video for you guys. So, anyways, hope you have a good one, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.